What's up, everybody? How are you? Top of the morning to everybody. Coffee time. That's my lovely girlfriend, Z, in the back. She's leaving. Let me go grab Dynamite so we can get started with some of this live stream stuff. Dynamite! Okay. So, actually, one thing I'm missing, I just need some treats on me, which I think are right here. Perfect. We're back at it, me and Mr. Dynamite. Let me go ahead and pull you guys a little bit forward so you can see what we are up to. All right. So today what we're going to go over a couple ways that we can use obedience to get our dog's mental energy stimulated. And Rob, I'm actually so glad that you're here because Rob is a prime example of a dog who is mentally stimulated on an everyday basis. Rob, I don't know if you have time, but could you actually put that link of you and Goose that they did on that Facebook channel, on that Facebook page? Could you put a link to that in the comments so people could go ahead and see what you guys are up to? So that way they can see really what kind of the benefits of working really hard with your dog and kind of what it can look like, right? So this is my boy Dynamite. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over just a couple brain games that you guys can practice with your dogs, some using obedience and some just teaching the dogs new concepts that they may not know in the first place, okay? So let's go ahead and start with a real easy one. Those of you guys from last week who tuned in, you guys should have been working on your downstays, okay? So hopefully if you can get a 30-second downstay, great. If you can get a 1-minute downstay or a sit-stay, wonderful. Now, the whole purpose of that was to make sure that our dogs had patience and self-control, right? Because a lot of games involve the use of the dog's self-control and patience, right? If the dog is not exercising self-control and patience, it doesn't really stimulate their brain in the way that we would expect them to, okay? So, for example, if I were to tell Dynamite, come boy, sit, right? And if I were to say sit, and he needs to almost imply that sit means to stay, right? If I were to say down, he needs to imply that down also means to stay, okay? Now, the reason for this is because he doesn't know what I'm about to do, but I want him to be attentive to what it could be. Now, something as simple as just a little hold and release that we talked about last week. Yes, okay, good boy. That anticipation where the dog just has to sit there and look and think and wait, that is forcing the dog to not only control his body, but to control his thoughts. Because so many times, you know, my dog probably wanted to get up, but when the dog has to actually hold themselves, it forces them to use a more rational part of their brain, which burns them out a lot faster. Okay, so let's try something like that again. Sit down. Good boy. All right. We grab a cookie. I can toss this cookie in the air, drop it on the ground. Stay. All of these are brain games. You guys might already do stuff like this with your dogs, but just anything that exercises patience, self-control, all of these things. If he makes a mistake, we warn him. Okay. Good boy. All right, you can eat this one. You can eat that one. Okay, come. All right, next couple things that are going to be brain games for dogs are going to be position changes. All right, so let's go over kind of what position changes are. Let me see if I can tilt this a little further down. Oops. This way. There we are. Okay, so position changes. For those of you who have done obedience with me, your dog should know the majority of these positions, but we're going to talk about how to use these positions in a little bit more of a mentally stimulating way. All right. So right now, Dynamite is in a sit position. At attention, because I have food in my hand. Okay. Let's do sit, down, sit. Good. Now what we're going to do is the harder parts of the brain games in general are about making the dog have to think about stuff. So if I'm not giving any hand signals, that technically makes it harder. So I'm going to go over just kind of how to add different degrees of difficulty for dogs. The easiest form for those of you guys who are just started, we're actually going to use the treat in our hand and create the lure. Okay. So for example, if I want my dog to sit, down, sit, down, sit, down. So this is called the lure. The hand motion going up and down as such. This creates more mental stimulation on the dog because the dog has to be hyper-focused and engaged on what's going on. Okay, so this is phase one of doing the command. The second phase of it would be actually us asking the dog the command and then phasing the use of our hand or delaying the use of our hand. Okay, so for example, sit, good boy, down, sit, good, down. Okay, so you see how there's a slight delay when I use my hand? This now forces my dog to have to anticipate what's going to come after the word sit or down. My hand signal is going to come after. Okay, so phase two is this: sit, sit, good, down. So notice the word's coming first, the hand signal's coming second. Sit, down, good boy. Okay, so then the hardest form is just the complete verbal. Come, sit, down, sit, yes. So that's the hardest form of a position drill. Now, right now we're just doing the two position drills. We're doing sit and down. There's a couple other ones that we can develop. Heel, which is a heel position. Okay, front, front, good, front, front, heel, yes. Okay, so we're teaching our dog the front position, which is literally sit, hanging out right here, and then all I'm doing is I'm luring my dog back to my front so he's nice and lined up like this. When he's lined up like that, I'm going to give him a treat. Okay, so I'm doing a little movement like this, getting the dog to sit in front of me, and I'm calling it front. So this is how we're going to shape this response right now. Front, sit, good boy, front. Now what I'm doing is I'm doing quarter turns. So I'm doing quarter turns like this that give him an opportunity to get in front of me. Front, good. Okay, now when we practice this over and over, we won't need the use of food as we talked about, but right now I have food for demonstration and for teaching you guys how to do level one of these exercises. Okay, so front, yes, front, yes. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to try and get as much straightness as possible. So if you kind of see here, I want my dog to be completely lined up. So if you were to look at this over my shoulder, you see how he is. Oop, sit. You kind of want him to be right there lined up in front of me. Okay, so let's go back to it. Oops. 1 second. All right, here we go. All right, back to Dynamite. So far we have done 3 position changes, and I'm going to show you guys the 4th one. If I want to teach my dog a heel position, my dog's going to be directly in front of me, good boy. So we're going to start in front like this. I'm going to grab a piece of food, put it to his face, and slowly I'm going to turn him inward to my side like this. And this is called our heel position. Okay, so the way we reset this is we put food to his face, we come back forward, and he sits in front of me again. Good boy. Let's show you guys from the side what this looks like. Sit. Okay, so he's here. I'm taking a step back and spinning him all the way around, giving him a cookie right there. I'm taking a step forward and bringing him completely in front of me. Sit. Okay, so these are the physical motions of what to do. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to name them. So this is called a heel. So eventually it turns into looking like that, right? When you practice it a lot. and then this is called front. Right? So front, heel, perfect. So these are two separate positions. So heel literally means my left heel right here. I want my dog to line up next to my leg. So when I'm going front, we're asking the dog to line up. Give me 1 second. Whoever's calling me, I'm busy. Sorry. All right. So we have here heel. Good. We got the dog heeling. And we got the dog coming to front. Good boy. All right. We also got the other two positions we started with. Sit, down, sit, down, sit, stand. Yes. Okay. So this is our 5th position that we're going to practice, the stand position. Okay. Now stand is one of those positions. It's a really cool position if you're able to accomplish it. It does take a lot of repetition. But there's 2 ways of developing the stand I'll go over with you guys. I can say stand and draw my hand forward so my dog stands up on all 4 paws. Or what I could do is I can actually push into my dog so his back end pops out. Okay? So these are 2 ways of luring the motion of stand. So we start from the sit position, stand. Yes, we give the dog food when he backs up. Okay? Sit. Now what I'm doing with my hands is I'm coming down under his chin. I'm not going down to the ground. So this is just one more skill for you guys to think of. I'm going sit. I'm not reaching down to the ground, because if I go down to the ground, sometimes dogs will lay down. Sit. I'm going for his collar pretty much. And when I reach for his collar, he knows, and I'm stepping into him. This is in essence what teaches him to walk backwards. Come on. I can't just do it. So I'm reaching for his collar and I'm stepping into him. That forces the step backwards. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, stand. Yes. Good boy. Sit. Sit. Stand. Yes. Okay. And what we start seeing over many, many repetitions, the dog's going to start learning that the word stand is right before I step in to touch his collar. Okay, the same way that the dog knows the word sit will be attached to me raising my hand up. Down, sit, stand. Yes. Okay. So another way we can do it, for those of you who may not be used to pushing into your dog, you can go sit, down, down, sit, stand. Okay? Right there. You just want the dog to step forward onto all 4 paws. That's all you're looking for. All right. So this makes sense for you guys, okay? Any questions or comments, please go ahead and leave them in. I'd be happy to review it before I move on. So there's 5 position changes. We'll just review them real quick. Sit, that's position 1. Down, that's position 2. Sit again, this is called the puppy push-up. Heel, good boy. Front, stand, yes, good boy. So we'll do that again in a different sequence. Sit, down, sit, stand, heel, heel. Good boy. And front. Good. Okay, so you see those 5 position changes. We practice them all separately, and then we bring them together into little sequences. And this ultimately is kind of like when we were kids and we were learning to put words together or sentences together, or even when we were able to kind of memorize our multiplication tables. That repetition of the brain we call the flow state. And when you get our dogs in the flow state, notice how focused Dynamite is. When dogs are in the flow state, they're burning brain calories. And brain calories are always going to be better to burn than sometimes physical calories, especially if your dog is a little bit more of a high drive dog. Okay, so one more time we review this. So position 1 is sit. He's already doing it. Down, sit, stand, stand. Good. Heel. Good boy. Front. Down, sit, stand, heel. Good boy. So we're just creating this cool little dance for our dogs. And again, all we need is a room. We just need some treats. We need our dogs to be hungry, and we can develop these really, really cool skills. Again, Rob, if you have that link to that Facebook thing, please put it on the chat. I would love people to see what can be achieved with their dogs. And it's not just Dobermans, because Rob has a Doberman too. Any dog can achieve these skills and have fun with them. All right, guys. So this is one set of skills, position drills that we worked on. You guys will be able to watch this again when it's all done. It's a little bit of a technical stuff. If you guys have any questions on position drills, call me. I can also do online sessions with you guys just like this, but one-on-one to help you with specific technique issues that you guys might have. But those are our 5 position drills: sit, down, stand, front, and heel. That's what we're working on right now. Okay. Now, next thing that we want to work on, we want to start playing things that teach our dogs to control themselves. And we're going to go over today tug of war. If your dogs know how to play tug of war, great. If your dogs don't know how to play tug of war, then we will work on teaching you guys how to do it. We'll also work a little bit on fetch. The only problem is my camera can't really leave this room. So maybe next week we'll go over all the fundamental skills of fetch. But let me go ahead and find a tug toy, and I'll show you guys the fundamentals of playing tug with your dog, because this is something we can do indoors, outdoors, and it's also very tiring for our pets. Okay, you ready? Where's your toy? Where's your toy? Go get your toy. Wait 1 second. Okay, so when we're looking at tug of war, guys, I want to see if there's a way I can make it so you guys can see me better. I think this might work. Aha! I think I did it. What's up, everybody? We're back. I like this. I like this. Okay, so with tug of war, 3 rules. 3 very simple rules. The dog, A, needs to actually have enthusiasm for the toy. Okay? Number 1 mistake people make with tug toys is they will shove it in the dog's face and they expect them to want it. So it'll kind of look like this. Here you go. Here, take it. Take it. Take it. Right? So this is a common mistake. We kind of just shove it in the dog's face. And what happens is when something's getting shoved in your face, if you're a dog, you don't really have the opportunity to get a good grab on it or a good bite on it. So what we want to do, number 1, is we actually want to move the toy away from our dogs in order to actually get our dogs to follow it with enthusiasm. So if I were to go, yeah, you see how when I pull it away from him, he actually wants to bite on it more? This is how we're going to do it. So I kind of play keep away a little bit. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll let the dog actually grab the toy. And then after I let him grab the toy, I might even let him have the toy. Okay? Now, sometimes what we've learned is that you shouldn't let your dogs win tug of war. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of context on that. The whole point of a game is sometimes I win, sometimes he wins, right? However, when a dog wins after showing you severe aggression and lack of self-control, we definitely shouldn't reward that process. So what we want to make sure we do is if we let the dog win, that it's just the round, the previous round of the game, and the dog starts the game all over again, right? So for example, I'm tugging, I let the dog win, he walks away with it, he's gonna bring it right back, and I'm like, good boy. And then I start tugging again, okay? If your dog does not bring it right back, okay, that's something that we have to work on as another skill of tug. Oh. Okay, so rule number 1, the dog has to go after the toy with enthusiasm. Come on. The way we do this is we play keep away. And notice I'm just in the middle, on my knee, just spinning around. And my dog's doing all the heavy lifting and all the work. Okay, now the point of tug of war is if my dog gets a good tug on the toy, I'm going to let him tug, and sometimes I'm going to even let him win. Oh, good boy. Come on, guys, bring him. Now, when I let him win, because the name of the game is tug of war and not take your toy over there award, right? What ends up happening is the dog wants to come back for a rebuttal round of tug, right? So if he just won one round, remember being a kid when you won something, or you won a game, or you won that level on the Xbox or the Sega Genesis, and you were just like, oh, I want to play that again. I want to play it again. Can I play some more? So winning actually motivates more playing. Give it that. Yeah, you do that. Way to go. You do that. So you notice how he's not running away from me. He's actually engaging me more in tug play. Oh, you win. Give it to me. Good job. Okay. Now, this is number 2. If I let the dog win, we have to teach him how to bring the toy back. All right? We will go over this after we teach this last thing. Oh! Okay. So how we get our dogs to release a tug toy is actually a lot easier than you think. All right? The name of the game is tug of war. So what happens is if the toy is not tugging back, the dog can't technically play tug of war. Now, one of the easiest ways to teach our dogs to let go is actually going to be by immobilizing the toy. So for example, if I said yes, and he starts tugging on this toy, as long as my arms are flinging and there's like a spring in my arm, the dog's going to continue to play tug. But if I get rid of this spring by just freezing, you see how he let go? Okay. So what happens is we want to actually develop, if you guys remember from last time, we want to develop a positive feedback loop with freezing the toy. For those of you who weren't here last week, positive feedback loop is a behavior that is automatically reinforced by another behavior, and it creates this loop that reinforces the dog that it's the right thing to do. For example, one that we learned when we were kids, our parents, if we grab something that's not ours, our parents will go, excuse you, what do you say? And we go, please, can I have the thing? And then our parents will always go, of course you can have the thing, right? And so in our mind, that's a positive feedback loop. If I say please, that guarantees me that I can get the thing that I want, okay? So in tug of war, we have a rule kind of like that. If the dog lets go, then the rule is the dog will automatically get it back, okay? So for example, oh, yes. Oh, yes. So notice every time he releases, I start the game up again. Oh, yes. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, okay. No, wait. Yeah. Good dog. Good dog. Okay, so the automatic feedback loop and the positive feedback loop. Oh, as soon as he releases, the toy starts moving again. Okay, but here's the big key for those of you guys who are going to practice this at home. You have to freeze the toy completely. So a lot of times people will be like, out, and then they'll move the toy like this. Well, the dog's just going to be motivated to chase it a little bit more. Okay, so we want to keep it frozen. Out. We want to move it slowly. Yes. Okay. Until we give the dog permission to go back and get it. Okay. So now that we have these fundamentals, my dog has excitement for the toy. Number 2, if I throw the toy, he'll bring it back. And if I'm tugging on the toy and I say release, he'll release immediately. So these types of things are actually the 3 components to tug of war. If my dog doesn't do these 3 behaviors, then we have to break them down individually and work on each of those skills. All right. So those of you who your dogs don't let go of the toy, we just learned that if you freeze the toy and hold it steady, if you hold it long enough, eventually the dog will spit it out of their mouth. When they spit it out of their mouth, you're going to reward them by playing the game again. Okay, you're going to loop this over and over and over until you see that it happens as fast as dynamite, right? So even if I didn't have a command to it, you'd see that dynamite is pretty consistent. If I freeze the toy, he spits it out of his mouth. Okay, yes. So we'll just demonstrate that real quick. Tug, 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 tug. We freeze the toy. Freeze. And he lets go. Yes. And we're going to give it to him. Tug, 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 tug. Tug, 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 tug. I freeze.
I mean, much. As much.
Okay, so that was number 1. All right, you guys saw that. Now number 2 if the dog does not have enthusiasm for this toy, okay, there are some dogs who do this. They'll grab a toy and then they'll kill it. Okay, when dogs go to kill the toy, that's like more like a default primitive game that they like to play with toys. So part of what we want to do is we want to teach the dog that the tug toy itself is a two-player game. So that's why when we have the toy come out, we're going to tease the dog with it a couple times. In essence, we're playing keep away. But that game of keep away is actually developing a stronger drive for this toy. Right? Oh, good. Yes. So I let him have it sometimes, giving him some success. Out. Yes. I take it away sometimes. So here I'm going to give it to him. Okay. Good boy. Bring it back. Now, if I want to teach my dog to bring it back, I'm going to release the toy, and I'm going to walk away from him, and he'll automatically bring it back to me. Okay. Now, some of your dogs might take it and run away, but this is the first way that we teach the dogs to bring us the toy to re-engage us back into tug. Okay? Yes. Okay? Okay. Come on. Go ahead. I love it. I'm alive. All right. So far we have these two rules. The dog needs to let go when you say. The dog needs to bring the toy back if you let him win. And the third rule is the dog has to engage the toy with enthusiasm. Okay? So these are the three components of tug of war. If you guys have any questions on this, again, call me. Happy to do a free private session with you guys online. My whole goal with doing these live streams is to help you guys have more fun with your dogs while we're stuck on lockdown. So this is an example of a cool toy, a cool game that you can develop. Now, if I were to throw this toy, we're going to talk a little bit about the game of fetch. In order to do fetch, I'm going to bring another guest in. He's a 5-month-old Bouvier puppy that I think would be a lot better at demonstrating this because Dynamite's been doing this for 2 years versus this next upcoming puppy. He's only 5 months old. So we're going to go ahead and work and see what it looks like from the ground up developing fetch with a dog who doesn't know anything. So if you guys give me 2 minutes, actually 1 minute, I'll be right back with the new pup. Everybody give it up for Dynamite. Dynamite, heel. Heel. Yeah, tuck heel. Say bye to everybody. He's so tasty. I'll be right back. Okay. Okay. All right, here we go. And we're back at it. Hi, Susan. Thank you. Hi, Brittany. Okay. Sit. Heel. Okay. So this is our boy. This is Falcor. Oh, John. I know you want it. So this is Falcor. Falcor is a 5-month-old Bouvier. He really wants this toy. So we're going to actually go over fetch right now with him. However, he's really digging this toy right here. Got alarms going off. All right. So Mr. Falcor, 5-month-old Bouvier Flanders. He is a sweet, sweet dog. He's a little tough, dominant son of a gun, however. So brain games are super important. The more high drive your dog is, the more dominant your dogs are. The more that this teaches dogs manners, self-control, and most importantly, mental discipline, right? This is the key to it all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss this guy. We're going to start working with some balls. Here we go. 2 tennis balls. Now there's 2 ways that we can teach fetch. Okay. One way is, first we want to see what the dog gives us already, right? So I would say a high percentage of dogs actually already chase the ball, right? So if I were to go, hey, come on, and I tossed it, well, he's going to go grab it, right? Good boy, good boy. If he brings it back to me, especially at a young age, we call that an automatic retrieve, which means that the dog naturally will want to bring that ball back to you. Sit. Yeah. We see that in a lot of working dogs. So Dynamite had an automatic retrieve. Some golden retrievers, Labradors will have an automatic retrieve. Literally as young as 8 weeks old, you'll see that the dog will go grab a ball and bring it to you. So this makes our jobs teaching fetch 100 times easier. But in the situations that your dog doesn't bring the ball back, part of what we want to do is we want to actually teach them how to do it. So easiest way that we're going to teach our dogs how to bring balls back, we can start on a 6-foot lead to start, or we can start on a longer leash, 10 feet, 15 feet. But the idea is we're going to toss the ball, let the dog grab it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You good? You good? Come on. Good boy. And we're going to guide the dog back. Good boy. With the leash in our hands. Okay? So if your dog is the type of dog that likes to grab a ball and run away with it, you have to start this game on a leash. Good boy. Bring it. Good boy. Thank you. We'll get another one maybe from this angle. Hold on. Hold it. Oh, it doesn't move as fast as I thought it would. So let's see. Okay, ready, boy? Go get it. Get the ball. Get the ball. Good. Bring. Bring. Good boy. Go get the ball. Good. Bring. Come on, boy. Thank you. Okay. So this is step number 1, getting our dogs to grab it and bring it back. Now, step number 2 in teaching our dogs fetch. Step number 2 is getting our dogs to drop it on commands. Now, there's 2 ways I like to do this with fetch. There is 2 types of exchanges. There's the food exchange for the ball, okay? Or there's the ball exchange for the ball. So what we can do is we can use food or treats as kind of an exchange rate, right? We have this exchange with our dog. So for example, my dog has that ball in his mouth. Good boy. And I bounce another ball. He's going to spit the other ball out because he's excited about the other ball. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah. So you guys saw that moment he dropped it and I threw the ball. A little bad timing, but come on. Yeah. You got that? Good boy. Good boy. Good job. Get the ball. Get the ball. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, so just the revealing of this ball has the potential of actually teaching the dog. It has the potential of teaching the dog to spit it out because they will anticipate you to, pull out another ball. So the dog's coming to you. When he's within 2 to 3 feet of proximity, you pull out the other ball and you start bouncing it, and the dog's going to spit the other ball out, and then you can toss this ball. Come here. Okay, and you can toss this ball. Now, another way of doing this, right here, he still thinks I threw the ball. Uh-oh. Right here. Sit. Down. Okay, another way of doing it is we're going to do a food exchange. So we get some treats in our pouch or in our pocket. We're going to throw the ball, and then when the dog comes back towards us, we're going to reveal treats instead of revealing another ball. Now, this tends to be a little bit cleaner. However, you're going to see maybe something that Falcor does that is a little bit of a disadvantage in this exercise, where he might actually want the treat so much that he spits the ball out prematurely and just comes and gets the treat. So based on how your dog is, you're going to adjust which technique is going to be the right fit for you. Hey, what's that? All right. Well, he's working on it. He went under the bed. You got it, boy? You got it? Come on, boy. Get the ball. Good. So when he brings it, he actually already could smell the treats in my hand, so he dropped it prematurely. Let's see. Ready? Get the ball. Come on, boy. Oh, he forgot the ball that time. So this is one of the disadvantages of doing the food stuff. Sometimes the food is more valuable to the dog than actually getting the ball. So this is some way you have to play with it. Good boy, bring. Come on, boy. And I reveal food. He spits out the ball. Then he takes the food from my hand. Let's just do a couple more reps so you guys can see it. Go. Come here, boy. Good boy. Yes. Okay, you're gonna see he pretty much drops it 100% of the time when he sees the food. Where you go? No, you don't have the ball. You don't even have the ball. You didn't even get it. Come on. All right. So we get this. So we have to teach the dogs to bring the balls back. We have to sometimes have them on leash. To teach the dogs to drop the ball, we either exchange with another ball or we reveal a treat in exchange for the ball that's already in their mouth. And then we create this loop over and over and over. Okay? So this is how we're going to go ahead and do that. All right? Any questions that you guys have, please go ahead and put them over here on the side about fetch. Again, we're happy to go over this stuff with you guys online, or you guys can rewatch this video. Now, here's a big thing. A lot of time when we think of fetch, we think that fetch has to be developed in a very big space. Not yet. If your dog sucks at fetch, I would recommend you start in a small room like this. Start in a hallway where you can throw the ball, and the dog has to bring that ball all the way back. Start in a very easy controlled space first, and then once you've done that, and you develop this rapport where the dog grabs the ball, brings the ball, drops the ball, throw the ball, grab the ball, bring the ball, drop, you see this loop develops. Now we can start actually practicing it outside in the real world. Okay? So always set yourself up for success by just controlling the learning environment. And if you guys do that, you're going to be very huge successes with a lot of the things that you teach your dogs. And these are the big difference between dog trainers and dog owners. Sometimes we set our bar too high as dog owners versus dog trainers. We set our bar lowers, but we raise that bar faster and faster and faster every couple of days. Okay? So this is how dogs can learn it from the top to bottom. All right, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this up to questions and answers. I'm going to go ahead and take Valcor to go potty real quick. But if you guys have any questions or anything, it doesn't have to be about any subject. It doesn't have to be about brain games, anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and just close out the next 10 minutes with Q&As with you guys and answer as many as I possibly can. Let me go ahead and just take Falcor back to his room because he's exhausted right now also. So, ready, Falcor? Let's do it. Let's go, Bubbers. Let's go, Bubbers. Okay, and we're back. Here we go. Let me go ahead and adjust this. Okay. So we got question number 1 from Susan O. If the dog isn't naturally eager to go after the ball, how do you teach that? Good question. So let's talk about why dogs sometimes aren't naturally eager. Sometimes genetically dogs just don't have what's called a prey drive, which is if something is, flying past their eyes, naturally they should get stimulated to go find it. Now it's so funny, humans even have a prey drive. You know, like when we see flies and mosquitoes, if you've ever seen someone mid-conversation just go like, that's actually our prey drive also. It's just been kind of mellowed out for the last couple thousand years. So, but what happens is if the dog isn't born with this genetic desire to chase things, the fetch can definitely be a little bit harder, right? So the types of brain games that we might do with them, or the types of games or skills we might do, are you know, things like Kongs, things where we build motivation. However, let me show you this. If the dog doesn't have a natural desire to chase, let me see if I can find this toy. Where did it go? Have you ever seen a ball on a rope? You know what? I will kind of just demonstrate and show you how to make a ball on a rope. But in essence, the ball on a rope is just, you take a ball, a tennis ball, and what you can do is you can pop a hole through it. So like this one has a hole in it already. So what I would do, I could buy one of these balls, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a rope through the end and just tie a knot. So I literally will have a ball dangling from a string by the time that we're done. So in essence, what I'm doing is I'm making a cat toy for dogs, but with a ball attached to the end. So when we do that, we can actually use this cat toy to kind of motivate that dog to chase the ball, to develop a drive and an excitement for that ball. So if your dog isn't born naturally with the drive for the ball, you can actually develop it if the dog is young, or you can develop it, you know, even if the dog's adolescent or adult. The key is you have to keep trying until you see that the dog's instinct to go for it kicks in. And persistence, I think, is one of the biggest parts of dog training that really makes the difference in developing the dog's ball drive. So I would start there. Sometimes in order to develop ball drive, you actually have to start with other toys, some things that squeak, because balls naturally don't exist in the wild, but things that squeak and run away from the dog are more motivating for the dog than let's say just a round piece of rubber. Oh, she found it. Look, she found it, everybody. This is great. So this is an example of a ball on a rope, right? We just get a ball on a rope, and we can just play with the dog as you would with a cat. You just kind of put it here, and you pull it around like a cat toy, and you throw it. And sometimes you can do things like this, you know, where the dog chases it. And this is what helps develop the dog's excitement for the ball. Okay, what's up, Naveed? Naveed, did you get to see your boy on the live stream? Yeah, I hope you did. Hope you did, because he was just there. See, so Naveed's question is, how do you get the dog to only chase the toy you decide to fetch, not something else like other dogs' toys or a squirrel? Good question. So to get a dog to completely not like squirrels is damn near impossible, right? You can get dogs to control themselves around squirrels and maybe not chase the squirrels, but to get it completely out of them, it's impossible. So part of what we want to work on is we actually want to teach our dogs from a young age to be obsessed over certain types of toys. So we're trying to combat the dog's genetic predisposition to like squirrels and hunt things by teaching them to hunt and focus on things that aren't alive, like balls and tug toys and things like that. And so from the time that they're young, if we kind of get them obsessed over these types of toys and these skills, give me 1 second, guys. Keep calling me, which is good. Pretty much at a young age, we have to get them obsessed. We have to get them obsessed with these toys, okay? So let's see, how do you get the chase only toy? Yeah, that's pretty much the simple answer. We have to start at a really, really young age, teaching them fetch, teaching them tug, teaching them to like the squeaky toys. And little by little, we get them obsessed on those toys so that way we can use that obsession to combat what might happen, you know, if you ever find the dog outside in a park, right? And hopefully by then we already have obedience and we have self-control developed with our dogs before we just dive into stuff like that, okay? So I hope that was helpful, Naveed. It's not really a simple answer because it's a pretty complex behavior when we're dealing with prey drive. But any other questions, y'all? Let's see, we'll be on for about a couple more minutes. If any of you can think of another question. All right. Aha. How to help with barking when I'm not home? That's a great question. Susan, what kind of dog do you have? If you could answer that. What kind of dog do you have, Susan? She's a mix. Are you one of my clients or are you just tuning in for the first time? I'm trying to see Susan. I have a lot of Susan clients. Oh, Milo. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so barking when you're not home, it's kind of tricky because dogs will bark for a bunch of reasons, right? So dogs might bark because they hear the mailman outside, or dogs could bark if you live in an apartment building. Sometimes anytime people pass by your apartment building to go to the elevator or the staircase, people are going to start barking and reacting. But in your specific situation, when you're not home and the dog is barking, part of what we want to do is we want to last week, I'm not sure if you got a chance to see our episode from last week, but we talked about positive feedback loops. And like, for example, in the situation of developing a game, we want a positive feedback loop to nurture the game that we're trying to play, like fetch. But in dog barking, positive feedback loops also exist where the dog barks, the dog scares something away, which reinforces the barking, which motivates the dog to continue to seek things out to bark at, right? So you see that this process keeps happening over and over and over and over. So some of the easiest ways to do it when you're not, well, it's almost impossible for you to do it actively when you're not home. So this is where devices like bark collars kick in. You can get like a citronella one. When he barks, it sprays him in the face. They have even more, more advanced ones for very severe barkers that can stimulate them when they are barking too much. But the thing is that positive feedback loop that's created when the dog is barking, you have to interrupt that cycle, right? So let's say the dog barks, the dog gets sprayed in the face with citronella spray. This completely throws off the whole cycle. So the dog gets sprayed, and now the dog's thinking about how the hell did that happen? And little by little, what happens is the dog starts realizing, oh, I got sprayed in the face because I barked. So little by little, what happens is we're starting to break that cycle that's happening, right? And if we can do that, then we're able to eliminate the cycle from continuing condition. And gradually you'll see week by week, day by day, it gets less and less and less. But you're going to have to keep that bark collar on in that moment to be able to teach the dog to not bark, especially because you're not home to tell the dog to quiet. So that's one of the big reasons for the bark collar. I hope that was helpful. Okay, let's see. Erica, what's up, Erica? So for Manolo, so for those of you guys who don't know Manolo is like a 6-7 month old husky who is feisty, and he's a challenge, and he's pushy sometimes. And it's so funny. I met him when he was like this big, and now he's like a giant 6-month-old. So Erica's asking, Manolo doesn't let go until he wants to let go. How do I fix this? So in this situation, what I would recommend is to act, because he has training under his belt and your dog actually understands what a reprimand is. We want to actually use some of our training tools to get the dog to listen to the out command, okay? What happens is dogs, a lot of times what we mistake for disrespect are actually dogs just being in an obsessive state, right? So let's say, for example, if my dog's, you know, on this toy, eating that toy, he's so obsessed on eating this toy that you're over here saying, off, let go. And he's just like, still chewing on his toy. And what happens is he's not thinking about letting go because he's so obsessed on what this behavior that he's doing here, okay? So sometimes what we have to do is we have to snap the dog back to reality, then tell them to drop it, and then they spit it out, okay? So it's kind of like a kid getting too involved, like on his cell phone, and you're saying, hey, Timmy, hey, Timmy, hey, Timmy, and Timmy just doesn't check in. So what we're gonna do is you can actually put a leash on your dog, put it on his collar. If you have a training collar on, put it on his training collar as well. And while you're playing the game, you're gonna play, tug, the ball even. And what you're gonna do is you're just gonna say drop, or you're gonna say the word out, which was his release command. Say out. You're gonna say it really sharp like that. And then if the dog lets go, you're gonna go ahead and praise him a lot and give him the toy right back. If the dog doesn't let go, you're gonna grab the leash, give it a little sharp tug to get his attention, and then he's gonna spit it out, okay? And if you have any issues with that, Erica, give me a call. We'll go ahead and do a private follow-up online, and we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so just make sure you set yourself up for success. In this situation, for the first couple rounds, you're gonna have to have a tool on the dog so that you can follow through appropriately, okay? Or you can try the treat exchange. Just grab some treats and try and exchange it with them. See what works. Okay, Brittany, what's up, Brittany? If you have multiple dogs and you want to use a bark collar for one of the dogs that barks the most, my foster dog, what kind of bark collar do you recommend, citronella or stim? It depends. It really depends. So when training dogs, we always want to work with like the least aversive tool first. But there are some, you know, some logical experiential things that you'll see. So I would always start with the citronella first, to be very honest. Stimulation is a more exact form of correction. So like if you have a dog who you know is starting it, or if you have a dog who is like a very severe barker who you know, like on a scale of 1 to 10, barks at like 6, 7, 8, or like 7, 8, 9, you know, I would maybe go with a stim collar. When you're dealing with automatic collars, be it citronella or a stim collar, I would go with a little bit more expensive, right? The more expensive, the better technology, usually. You can go on Amazon and find some really cheapo depot collars. I would just be careful. I would just be careful with the cheap ones. I always like to spend quality money on any automatic tools that I use for my dogs. Let's see. I didn't want the consequence to affect the other dogs if they aren't barking. Right. So the citronella itself isn't really, I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've been a dog trainer for 12 years. Citronella by itself, I don't think is that negative to dogs. I think it's the mixture of the surprise of being sprayed in the face with the resonating smell that makes the citronella itself bad to the dog, right? So it's the surprise and the resonating smell that exists. So I don't think necessarily your dogs would suffer even if there was a citronella spray on one dog. I don't think your other dogs would stick around for too long or be all up in her face to be affected by that as well. I think it would mostly be experienced by the dog wearing the collar. Hope that was helpful. All right. Cool, guys. You guys have had, 12, 13 people steady on this stream. I really appreciate you guys for checking in and staying with me this whole time. I miss all my clients, guys. I miss you guys so much. I wish I could go out and see you guys. If you guys have any questions, just reach out to me. info@CANIS Dog Training is my email. You guys probably got an email blast this morning or yesterday about it. Feel free to text me or call me at 310-737-8311. We miss you guys. I really wish I could see you guys. But we can see each other. via the internet. So if you guys have some time and want to schedule a 30, 45-minute session with me, please go ahead and just reach out. We'll go ahead and plan that out because I'm here all day, all day training dogs. So I'd love to see some friendly faces. Go ahead and check in with us again, guys, next week. Next week, we got something special in store for you. We'll send you guys another email in the middle of the week to let you guys know what we thought of. But thank you guys so much. If you guys find this content helpful, please send it to your friends. If you guys have other people, I'll also tell you guys a little bit about some of the services that we can do. I've just done several puppy sessions this week. So many people have had this idea. They go, you know, I'm on lockdown for the next potentially month. This is a great time to get a puppy. So you have no idea how many calls I got from people who are like, we just got an 8-week-old puppy. We just got a 10-week-old puppy. We just got a 12-week-old puppy. And I have been doing amazing, you know, to my surprise, puppy sessions online with clients. And we're potty training. We're teaching them obedience, just like we saw. We're teaching games, just like we saw. So I'm just so grateful to see how this platform of online training can actually be effective without us having to be in each other's presence. So if you guys know anyone who has a puppy or has a dog, a young dog, or any dog who is interested in doing work that isn't already one of my clients, please forward them to me. Send them my way. Send them to the YouTube channel. I'd love to talk with them and see, you know, what the best way for us to help them would be. Now, obviously, there's certain things we may not be able to do, like behavioral issues we can't necessarily take care of online. But anything from puppy raising to basic obedience, all that stuff, you know, we're finding really innovative ways of taking care of this online. So I really appreciate you guys. I love you all. Thank you guys again, and we will see you guys next week. Peace. Uh-oh, how do I shut this off? Bye, guys.